I just want to get your thoughts on some of the big name players here. Obviously, we got some great players here. Chris Bosh got in, Paul Pierce got in, Ben Wallace got in, just and also Chris Webber as well. So just let me get your thoughts on this 2021 NBA Hall of Fame class.
I'm torn, and this is going to be a different take. I don't think Chris Bosh is a Hall of Famer, in my personal opinion. His career unfortunately ended a little early because of the blood clots. Maybe if he would have scored a little bit more points, or maybe if he would have made a couple more, postseason run. I don't know. I mean, obviously the majority of his career was in Toronto, where he didn't really do anything. He did average about 24 points a game out there. He comes to Miami, wins 2 chips with Braun. But I mean, really, that's it. I mean, his career is 19 points, 8.5 rebounds. Like, I don't really see something crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like Paul Pierce, carried a franchise into the postseason. I don't know how many times. Paul Pierce won an NBA championship. Paul Pierce was, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody knows the truth. Everybody knows Paul Pierce made an impact. I just really can't compare Chris Bosh to the list of the players on here. I mean, if you really want to look at it, Ben Wallace was a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. He was a champion. Ben Wallace was just a focal point on the defensive end that carried that Piston team into relevance and dominance into the early 2000s. Like, for God's sakes, they fucking knocked off Shaq and the Lakers in 2004 in one of the greatest upsetted NBA finals in history. And they didn't just they fucked them up. They dominated them in 5s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Ben Wallace was a big part of that. And Ben Wallace is a very, very remembered and recognized player. Granted, he has been out of the league for some time, so him getting into this a little late, in my opinion. I mean, Chris Webber, too. I mean, you could make an argue about it. Why is he in the Hall of Fame? He's never won anything. He's averaged 20 points and 10 rebounds for the entireness of his career, but he didn't achieve anything. He didn't get an MVP. He had a couple of All-Star appearances. He didn't get a Defensive Player of the Year. He didn't have an NBA championship. Like, he won Rookie of the Year in 93. Whoopee. Like, I think this class is a lot weaker than a lot of other classes in the past. I think that the NBA is kind of fishing for some talent, or fishing for some vets, because the only one that really belongs on this list to me, Paul Pierce, and maybe finally Ben Wallace. Again, no disrespect to the 2 players that I had mentioned. It's probably going to come across as a horrible take, because Lord knows everybody likes to say that my recent takes on some things have been horrible. But I don't know, man. I'm not really feeling it. I wish I had more to say. It's just, it doesn't feel right to put Chris in the Hall of Fame, and both Chris's, actually. That's ironic. But I don't know, man. I'm going to literally pass the ball to you, because I'm literally struggling here to figure out what it is that I want to word, but I just can't word it, because it's like a gut feeling. I just don't feel like they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you with Chris Bosh and Chris Webber. When I look at really these top guys here, Paul Pierce, I believe he's a Hall of Famer. That's without a doubt. Same thing with Ben Wallace. It's like you mentioned, him winning 4 Defensive Players of the Year awards, and he was one of the major pieces into why Detroit won that 2004 NBA Finals against the Lakers. And even despite that, he was just a gritty, tough player, and was just tough as nails for that Detroit team. He kind of reminded me of somebody that would have, I think, fit in well with those bad boy Pistons back in the 90s. He was kind of cut from that same cloth, and I really think that just the intensity that he brought to that Detroit team is what made them an NBA champion.
Him and Dennis Rodman.
Woo, that would be fire.
A lot of suspensions.
Here's where I'm going to slightly disagree with you with the whole Chris Webber and Chris Bosh part, simply because when I look at Chris Bosh, I think he got in because of his association with that Miami Heat team. Just because even though that he wasn't the main guy on that Heat team, he did come up with some huge moments in some big games for Miami. He got that rebound in Game 6 in the 2013 NBA Finals against the San Antonio Spurs. He passes out to Ray Allen. He knocks down the shot. And then not only that, believe that game went into overtime. I think the Heat were up 2 or 3 in the last possession of that game. He ends up blocking Danny Green in the corner, seals the game.
Could have been a foul.
it's one of those things. It's like in the moment, it's really tough to make that call if you're
100%. Yeah,
so
it's tough.
But I thought it was great defense. I thought it was a great defense from Chris, and I think just when you look at Chris Bosh's career, I think he was really kind of the main guy in Toronto, but they didn't really go anywhere because Toronto wasn't really that good of a team in the mid 2000s. But they were better with him, and I think just the veteran leadership that he was able to provide for that Miami Heat team from 2010 to 2014. I think you take Chris Bosh away from that team, Miami winning 2 of those finals is a lot more difficult than with him there. So I think
I agree.
You have to appreciate his presence on that Heat team, because I don't think if they had him, if they did not have him on that team, I think they may have only won one of those finals, not 2. So
yeah, but you can argue the rebound. No, the rebound for the Spurs, because in my opinion, Popovich had a brain fart. Like, he took out all his bigs to guard because they were playing defense, and Chris Bosh was like 5 inches taller than the tallest player on the Spurs on that defensive set.
Yeah,
Bosh. If Bosh didn't get the rebound, it would be embarrassing. And we're really basing his Hall of Fame career on one rebound.
I think it was
one of the clutchest rebounds in NBA history. Granted, I 100% agree. I've heard about this Ray Allen shot my whole fucking life since it's happened. It's one of the clutchest shots I've ever seen. But if we're solely basing a Hall of Fame career on one act or one play, that's not enough for me, because he wasn't consistent with it. Yes, he's a 2-time champion, Braun and Wade. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he was an 11-time All-Star. He was the best player in Toronto, so he had to, averaging almost 25 and 10. But when he got to Miami, his points per game decreased, his rebounds decreased, his efficiency decreased.
That was expected,
and like I
though.
Said,
that was
agreed.
Expected.
But he won 2 titles being the third fiddle, and we're going to sit here and praise him like he had a phenomenal career.
He did have a good career.
Case.
He had a great career.
It's a little Hall of Fame career.
It's a little disrespectful to say he had an okay career. He did not have an okay career.
It's not a Hall of Fame career to me. It's not enough. I get it. He's a 2-time NBA champion. It's hard to win championships. I get that. Some of the greatest players in this league have never won championships.
That's fair.
But I don't believe that he rightfully deserves it as easily as a first ballot, first year. Like, dude, there are some. I don't know off my head, but I'm pretty sure there are some players that have been waiting to get into the Hall for some time now that I believe may deserve to be in this Hall of Fame faster than fucking Chris Bosh. He's nothing stellar.
Just agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So and then with Chris, though, with Chris Webber, this is one that is a little bit intriguing to me. I think he got in just because of his entire basketball career. Because when you look at Chris Webber, he was huge in his collegiate time as well with the Fab Five. And he was one of the biggest pieces during that run when he was with Michigan.
He also called the timeout.
Fair enough. However, he was a huge focal point for that team getting to where they got to. Okay. So you can't really argue that. Yeah, he had the one brain fart in probably the one moment that you can't have that. But I don't think that takes away from his entire collegiate career with Michigan. He had a stellar career in Michigan.
No, agreed. Yes, but there is a college basketball Hall of Fame for that. So I will not sit here and allow his collegiate career to affect his NBA status, because there's a Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. There's a College Basketball Hall of Fame. You want to go and bring up the Fab Five, you can bring it up at that speech. I don't want to hear none of that bullshit here in the NBA, because nobody gives a shit what you did in school when you come to the league.
I mean, Jay Wright got into the NBA Hall of Fame, and he's never coached an NBA game in his life. I
don't agree with that. I don't understand why that is. Like, why are you in the NBA Basketball Hall of Fame? Like, it just, to me, it does not make like there's a basketball and college basketball Hall of Fame.
Because it's not called the NBA Hall of Fame. It's called the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Yeah.
It's their overall impact to the game of basketball. And for me, when I look at Chris Webber, he was a great player with the Sacramento Kings. Granted, they didn't achieve what I would consider success as far as winning a title goes, but they were extremely competitive in the Western Conference, especially in
Oh,
those
yeah.
late 90 years going into the early 2000s. And he was the main focal point of that team. So we can't
Him, Mike
just,
Bibby, Jason Williams, all
you
those
had Vlade
boys.
Divac as well. So, I mean, you have some great players from those Kings teams. Even though they didn't win a championship, those teams were just fun to watch. Granted, I was a little bit younger when those teams were kind of going through their time, but I vividly remember just the wars and the battles that the Lakers and the Kings got into
And the
in those
Spurs
Western
and the
Conference
Kings, yeah.
playoffs games. So it's like you have to give respect where respect is due. I think Chris Webber is definitely deserved. He definitely deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame. And for me, was it a little bit late? Yeah, maybe. But with that said, I'm glad that he was able to get in, and I think it's well deserved for him. So, but all in all, I think this is a pretty good class. I don't think it's as good as the 2020 class that featured Kevin
No
Garnett,
shot.
Kobe Bryant, and Tim Duncan. But this is a respectable class. I'm not going to disrespect this class and say that this class is okay or so-so.